cops see a couple of these guys come in, and he'd say, evil beings. What are you people doing here? Next thing you know, why, the nightclub starts to whirl. Chairs go down with a crash, the proprietor's very unhappy, and war has commenced. Well, I think there are certain things that you can appeal to in men. Definitely certain things you can appeal to in men, which make them more or less revert to their basic selves. They take off their coats, in other words. That's a very thin principle. It has occasionally worked, and there's one religion which is based exclusively upon that principle. That if you can reach the soul or being of a person, just pang, or he becomes well, you've got it made. That religion, I don't know if you've heard of it or not, it's called Christianity. All you have to do is appeal to, as some of their various organizations have said, the Christ spirit in man. Well, I don't know about the Christ spirit, but if you appeal to the basic man, why, you get somewhere. And sometimes you have to appeal and appeal and appeal and appeal, and after you've duplicated the auditing question enough times, you've gotten there. It's quite amusing to look over the number of struggles we have had to find out the few things we have to know. But I suppose when you're climbing over barricades, well, you're liable to get your clothes covered with creosote now and then. And when you're smashing down jungle plants, you're certainly going to get spattered with a little chlorophyll. And you carry it along for a little while until you take a bath, and then you say, well, you know, all the way through this jungle, and there's just this one little piece of stuff here. That's the only piece of stuff. And we went through 8 miles of jungle and swamp, and so forth, and we found out this little piece of stuff. Duplication. Duplication. Gee. You know? And then you promptly forget all about the 8 miles of swamp and the jungle and so forth. You promptly forget all about that, and you say to somebody else, you come up, you see, they haven't been through it, you know, and you come up to them and you say, hey, look at this, duplication. And they say, yeah, what about it? You say, well, see all those 8 miles of swamp? They're not true. They're not true. They say they're not. And they say, they go in over their heads in quicksand, and they say, oh, somebody's lying to me. You say duplication is important, but I say mud is. And so we get the birth of science, mud. Now, wherever we look in a society as it struggles along, it picks up arbitraries with which to bolster up a hidden ideal that is never expressed. And we get these arbitraries piling up, laws, customs. Everybody forgets what they were supposed to prevent, and at last we have this mass which simply has one common denominator: prevent. And when you have a person totally prevented, you have a human being. But what would you really have if you had somebody who was totally prevented? You'd have somebody who couldn't help and who couldn't reach out on the rest of the dynamics, so you couldn't have a civilization because you couldn't have a third dynamic, could you? It's as easy as this. In other words, this system of preventing everything in order to bring out a good civilization succeeds in killing the thing it was supposed to bring out, right? So there must be another way and a better way, and that way we have today in Scientology. In our walkings along the line, we have gone through many vicissitudes. There's hardly a one of us present, myself included, who hasn't been human somewhere along these last 8 years. These were not lapses from grace, however. These were repetitions of habit. And a little bit hard to make it all the way. But the funny part of it is that somebody who simply starts along this road, who just gets started along this road and says, look, there are a few truths, have astonishing things happen to them. Remember the old article, Dianetics, Evolution of the Science? If more people got a hold of that article and read it, and all of a sudden got well, boom. Here was an odd phenomenon. I know of 3 separate cases that got a hold of that article in a hospital bed and read it, got up, called for their clothes, left, and hadn't had a recurrence years afterwards. Now, the simple idea that there is a way out, or that there is truth, or that truth can be realized, then itself is a tremendously potent force. So for those elements in a society which are trying to kill all truth, that would be the first thing attacked. The fact that there might be a road out. They'd say, no, no road out. There you are in the middle of the swamp jungle. Where you gonna stay? Everybody who tells you there's a road out must perforce, by definition, then be a faker and a quack, which is almost a direct quote of the Better Business Bureau brochure on curing anything. They say you always know a faker if he tells you he can cure something. Think that over for a moment. That's a direct quote out of the Better Business Bureau literature. You get the state favoring very strongly only those persons and elements which we'll talk about later in this Congress, which use violence and which seek to barrier people in so they cannot ever believe there is a road out. And you know, the society is so sure of itself that it has everybody trapped right there in the mud that they've forgotten to pay the guards and they've all left. That's right. It's an amazing thing. There are no guards on the stockade anymore. Only everybody thinks there are before you suddenly tell them to pick their head up a little bit. See if they can see the lint on a rifle barrel any place. Or reach out there and see if they really feel any barbed wire. Or walk over this way and see if they really do fall into any quicksand. And it's with great amazement that somebody will take this delicate, tentative step, I don't know. And we get the phenomenon of Dianetics, Evolution of the Science, yanking people out of hospital beds. We just made them look up and feel around here to see if there are any barriers anymore. The guards were still on duty, and they aren't. In other words, nearly every barrier we have, and nearly every duress that man has experienced that kept him in an aberrated state, is practically unenforced today. We have no more inquisition. We have psychiatry. We can discount those people. We have no more arrest because of religious beliefs in this country. You know, it was amazing. You know, all you had to do was say one day, first, it went this way. Over in Europe for a while, all you had to do was have a Bible read in your house to be burned at a stake. You know, it was that bad. That's all you had to do. Or you appeared in a field and listened to a preacher. And you had it right then. Dragged the body right off and mounted it up. And they were very interesting about this. You know, we think of people being burned at the stake. They didn't just burn them at the stake.